From CBS Los Angeles, doctor finds success in treating infants with flat head syndrome. Have you've seen people like this, right? People, the back of their head is not quite as round as it's supposed to be. And I'm not talking about the Native Americans with the babies strapped to the boards. That doesn't really happen anymore. So what could the modern equivalent possibly be? Plagiocephaly, commonly known as flat head syndrome, can be scary to parents of an infant as well as costly. But one local doctor may have an answer. You think, really, is it that complicated? A baby's skull is soft. You're subject to pressures from the outside. You strap it to a piece of wood, it's going to get flat. If you are getting a kid and their head is kind of flat, maybe you should examine if you're putting too much pressure on the backs of their heads. Geez, now how could that have come about? Let's read on. Dr. Yvette Flores says that she has had a 100% success rate in avoiding helmets for children who show signs of the condition if she works with them within their first few months of life. As she said, the interesting thing about the human head is that it innately wants to be round. So you take away that pressure and it'll just pop right back out. Well, geez, where the hell is this pressure coming from? Dr. Flores explained that since flathead syndrome is not a life-threatening illness, it is often ignored by pediatricians, even though it can result in serious consequences. The incidence of flathead syndrome have exploded 600% in the United States since 1992. Now, let's go back to 1992, shall we, and find out what exactly it could have been that started this trend. In that same year, the Back to Sleep campaign was launched in order to reduce the rates of sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS. This included the advice that parents only let their infants sleep on their backs. All right, what happens when we turn to government for the key information on how to raise children? Well, yes, you might think Back to Sleep campaign. By the way, CBS leaves this little thing out of the story, so we did a little research, turned to Wikipedia. Back to Sleep is an initiative backed by the United States National Institute of Child Health and Human Development at the U.S. National Institutes of Health to encourage parents to have their infants sleep on their backs to reduce the risk of SIDS. Really? Now, they've said, according to Wikipedia, it was 1994, the incidence of SIDS has declined by more than 50%. Now, causation shouldn't really be confused with correlation here. So when we have this correlation, it could be that SIDS was decreased by other things that the Back to Sleep plan was doing, or other good advice that was mixed in with this silly, terrible advice that led to a 600% increase in sudden infant death syndrome. At least you could presume some causation here. In that same year, the Back to Sleep campaign was launched. That was the turning point. Flathead syndrome exploded 600%. You would have to presume, logically, there was some trigger there, right? Dr. Flores suggests that tummy time, in which infants are only on their belly, should be mandated between 5 and 8 times a day in order to prevent the need of a helmet to treat the condition. Flores treats children who already show the signs of flathead syndrome with therapy sessions of stretching and exercising the muscles in the neck. Now, you want to see what damage this does to a child's life, what this leads to. The helmets can be uncomfortable as well as costly, averaging around $4,000, with most insurance companies only covering a small portion of the cost. In cases where a helmet is needed, it must be worn 23 hours a day and can be required between 2 to 9 months. Yeah. Thank you, government, for your helpful advice on how to raise children. You might think, well, how is it that parents are getting this? Well, when you have a kid, you're kind of inundated with information. And when it comes through an organization like the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, you might think that has some credibility. But no, these are people who rely on thieves for their income rather than actually, providing something of value and serving the market. So you have the risk that some bad information is going to slip through without any accountability. There are a number of factors that increase the risk of flathead syndrome. The mother carrying multiples, like twins, the baby is breech-born, a traumatic birth that requires tools to get the baby out, or a premature delivery. This is what causes, when you have to reach in, I don't know if I want to describe this any further, with tongs and pull, serious birth defects happen when kids go through this. And it's not horribly uncommon. I played rugby with a guy who, tough as nails motherfucker, happened to have a sloped shoulder that was the result of being pulled out when he was born. because in order to get them out of the womb, this is modern government-approved medicine for you here. When again, the government wants you to have your kids in a hospital when you're so much better off with a home birth, with a natural style birth, with a midwife rather than a team of doctors and all the things that they can rip you off with as a pregnant mother that they think you need, or they can convince you that you need in order to rip you off. That's really all it is. The modern medical industry, largely thanks to government intervention, has become an exploitive racket, from pharmaceuticals to unnecessary surgeries to telling you to give your kid flathead syndrome. So, flathead syndrome is reportedly a condition that can be helped if action is taken early. As Dr. Flores said, if it's just something that is identified quickly and the parents are taught what to do, they could essentially help their child remold their heads so that it's as round as it can be. The problem is the government propaganda also has an effect, if you allow it in, of flattening what's inside your kid's head as well. And parents have a lot more work to do than just not letting their kids lie on their back 24 hours a day to keep them from being affected by government.
Dude, this is really creepy. You're not doing much for your credibility, just not answering the questions.
I was assaulted by an undercover FBI agent and officers of the Metropolitan Police Department.
And we've had a lot of police checkpoints here recently.